This can be a daunting task at first. Obviously these blades are extremely sharp and nobody wants a surgical cut. Now, I tend to use either a Cryles artery forceps or a small needle holder for this blade. You can do it any which way you like as long as you follow safe protocols. A needle holder is designed to hold these blades. A needle holder has cross hatchings inside its jaws, which I'm not sure if you'll be able to see here. But it's what it's made for, to provide grip and stability on needles. Similarly, they're good for holding blades. Now I have here a size 3 BP or Bard Parker handle, and I have a size 6A Bard Parker handle. Now the 6A is obviously not for sterile procedures, but I'm just going to use it for illustrative purposes. The head on this is the same as a 4 BP handle. Every blade comes with a hole in the middle. So I have here a 10A and a 23. 23 is quite often used for things like large orthopaedic procedures, abdominal procedures. A 10A, something that you need a bit more precision because it has the point and a nice straight edge. It doesn't really matter, they all go on in exactly the same way. So we'll do the 10A on the size 3 handle first. The reason the 10A goes on the 3, not the 4, is the size of the hole in it, so it has to fit on the head. Every BP handle has this diagonal stripe. I wonder if I can make that a bit more obvious. Just here. And every blade has a correlating stripe. Come here, Mr. Blade. So when you line them up, you can see that this one has to go on this way. If you were to have your blade this way round, you might get it on part way, but then you would definitely get stuck. It would absolutely be incorrect. Similarly, you can't go on this side of the BP handle. So you must be able to see this stripe on your handle for it to be the right way, and the blade must be pointing the same direction so it will fit on. So let's go about how we pick it up. Like I say, I'm using a small needle holder for this. So I quite often use my instrument to go in the hole and get a little grip. Then I can turn my hand over. Now this is a cutting edge up here, so I can safely touch this edge down here. I can let go with my needle holder, and using this finger for stability, I'm going to clamp onto the blade, being careful not to go over the actual cutting edge. We don't want to dull our cutting edge. Now, remember I said about this stripe here. So this blade is going to this BP handle. I'm going to point them down and away from myself, and the reason I'm pointing it downward is so that if anyone is standing in front of my trolley or tray, they're not going to get pinged by a flying blade also. That shouldn't obviously happen. Now there is a little groove up the side of the BP handle, and that's where the blade's going to sit. So the trickiest thing is getting into that groove, and it takes a little bit of practice. So I'm going to try and bring this up so you can see. I'm going to put the BP handle toward the blade, and I can kind of fiddle it a little bit so you can kind of feel the groove. Now I don't have much stability up here so close, so I'm going to take it away from myself so I can be safe. I'm going to push down, and that doesn't feel good at all, so I'm just going to take it off and start again. I can feel my grip has moved up here, so I'm just going to reposition and re-grip. And I think it's really important to say that this won't always work first time, and it's good to be able to stop and have a bit of a breather and start again. Now obviously emergency work is different, but you won't be doing that until you've had some practice at this. So I'm going to use this finger for stability on the instrument, so I've always got contact. Pointing downwards, I'm going to try and find the groove, and I feel as though I have it there. So with the needle holder locked on the blade, I'm going to advance the BP handle, and it clicks into place beautifully. So I've still got a grip on the BP handle, the instrument on the right, and the blade at the top. 3-point contact. I'm now going to remove the needle holder, and that's my blade mounted and ready to go. Now there are a couple of different ways to get this off, but we'll do that in a minute once I've put the other one on. I'll put that over there safe. So here we are with my big, let's call it a number 4 head, but this is a 6A handle. It doesn't really matter, they're all the same. I'm going to pick up my blade. Now this one happens to be in the right orientation, but let's just say it wasn't. Well, I can barely get it to turn over. So let's say it's in the wrong position. I'm going to clamp onto it and turn my hand over. This is not the cutting edge. This is the cutting edge. I'm going to put my finger on the instrument for stability and get a nice tight grip. I'm going to find the groove on the BP handle with the blade, and once I have it, I'm going to use again a finger for stability and advance the BP handle until I feel that click. I can then let go of the needle holder. My blade is mounted and ready to go. Okay, how to get it off. There are a few different ways to do this, and you can certainly use a blade remover if you have one provided in your box, your sharps box. But if you have to do it by hand, you must absolutely always do it with an instrument, and even putting them on you should always use an instrument. You shouldn't use your fingers in case of slippage. But in this instance I'll show you. You've got a couple of options. You can do it turned over and away from you. However, if you were to slip, the blade is then coming toward you. You can do it face up, and this is what I think I would prefer. So what you need to do is you need to get this bit of blade over this bit of BP handle. So you're going to have to give it a bend like so. Now they are quite bendy, you just mustn't do it too far so that they break. So always with 3-point contact. I'm going to clamp this bit of the blade. You don't have much to get hold of, and I'm going to bend it upwards. I'm going to move this away from my face and downward, and I'm going to advance the blade just a fraction. I'm now over this lip. You can just see here. Now, still the blade is pointing to the left. I'm going to clamp over the cutting edge and the whole blade. I said before not to go over the cutting edge, but we're removing this blade because we're finished with it. So I can safely clamp right over it, which means I've got more purchase. I'm going to keep my finger on the instrument. So I've got 3-point contact. And while pointing downwards and away from myself, I'm going to pull the BP handle backwards while pulling the blade forwards. And it should just come off like so. By doing it this way, if I was to slip away, I'm not going to harm myself. One more time with the smaller one. So I need to bend this bit over this bit and just advance just a fraction. And then I'm going to clamp over the whole thing, and when I've got hold of everything all at once, pulling one back and pushing the other one forward, it comes off and safely goes away. And there you have it, how to put on a blade and take it off.